What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got our Week 8 fantasy quarterback starts and sits for every single matchup. So make sure to tune in. If you guys enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe. Also, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us as the week progresses. Shoot us your questions there. We'll make sure to answer them. And also check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. Get access to exclusive content. All those details in the description. But for now, let's get right into it. Before getting into our breakdowns, I want to give you guys a quick word from our sponsors at Overlay Fantasy Sports, who are taking DFS to a whole nother level. And I specifically want to highlight their matchup shop function, which is an absolute blast. In fact, we've been using it since the start of the NFL season because, let's face it, betting on the same old Team A versus Team B can get a little bit stale, a little bit boring. Well, that's not even close to being the case with the matchup shop of Overlay Fantasy, as it allows you to bet on individual player matchups, and it's super simple. Just pick whichever player you think will have the higher fantasy performance. And just like a regular bet would work, check out the spreads, do your research, and then win some money. You can bet on pretty much any single sport that you want, whether it's NFL, golf, MLB, etc. All those options are there. And again, super simple. Pretty much for any single NFL game coming up, you've got a bunch of different matchups that are always updated and added to. So if it's something as simple as just putting a single submission, you can do that. But guess what? If you want to get a parlay going and double up some of those winnings, you can do that as well. So take advantage of this. All of that homework you're doing for your fantasy lineups, let's have that translate to some big time winnings for your wallet as well. So do yourself a favor and check out Overlay Fantasy's matchup shop now. Our first game of the week features the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers. For quarterbacks here, we'll tentatively start Matt Ryan, but the level of confidence not all that high, and let's explain here, because last time these two teams played, Matt Ryan had his worst game of the year, less than 10 fantasy points, and we know that the Panthers' defense is much worse versus the rush compared to the pass, so that kind of dictates how game script might go. But let's also not forget that the last time these two teams played, the Falcons were without Julio Jones and also still had Dan Quinn as their head coach. And again, did have some success on the ground that took away from what could have been a better day for Matt Ryan. Now, fast forward to week 8, where Julio Jones has been playing. And Matt Ryan, you have to like his chances to have a bounce back game in what's usually a high scoring affair between the Falcons and the Panthers. But the reason we see an asterisk next to his name, even though the Falcons offense has gotten better, is because if Julio Jones doesn't play, which, isn't out of the question because we've seen him not practice all week before. And now with a short turnaround, maybe his status is in jeopardy, and if that's again the case, Matt Ryan becomes a must sit for us. So keep all those things in mind. Now moving on to Teddy Bridgewater, let's start off by saying that we much prefer Bridgewater over Matt Ryan, even if Julio Jones plays, because the matchup here is better. The Falcons defense has not done a 180, and Bridgewater has his fair share of weapons as well, with Anderson, with DJ Moore, and then Mike Davis. I still don't think that Christian McCaffrey will be suiting up this week, but regardless, Teddy Bridgewater still has a nice ceiling here, and I think you're probably looking at potentially best case scenario, a low end quarterback one, probably a top 12 to top 15 quarterback though, if we're looking at most likely scenario. Then Vikings at the Packers. We'll start Kirk Cousins, and yes, it's not a sexy start, anything like that. But the first time these two teams played, even though the Vikings, weren't all that impressive, kind of got it going a little bit too late, Kirk Cousins still managed to salvage his day. And now with the improvement of Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen doing his thing and what Dalvin Cook can do, assuming that he comes back, then we like Kirk Cousins to potentially, again, have a decent outing here, get some garbage time points, and put something in the realms of between 17 to 20 fantasy points up on the board. But let's move on to the name that you obviously must start, and that is Aaron Rodgers for the Green Bay Packers, because this is a great matchup versus the Vikings. The first time they played each other, Rodgers had a great game. Devontae Adams back available. We saw what this connection can do when Adams is healthy. And then whether it's Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams at running back, it doesn't matter. Both those guys can get it done. Aaron Rodgers has a great matchup here. I anticipate him to be a quarterback 1 on the week, a top 10, arguably top 5 play for week 8. Moving on, Titans at the Bengals. We'll start both quarterbacks here yet again. Ryan Tannehill has been very good since the start of the season. Kudos to him. And this is a very friendly matchup. Honestly, the only thing that could work against him here is game script. And what I mean by that is the Titans go up and then they give the ball to Derrick Henry for the remainder of the contest. So obviously that's worst case scenario, but the weapons here are good for Ryan Tannehill with A.J. Brown, playing great since he came back from injury. Some other guys like a Jonnu Smith, Humphreys, Davis, all those guys can take advantage of this Bengals defense. I think the most likely scenario here for Ryan Tannehill is probably a low to mid-level quarterback 2 on the week. And again, more so due to game script than anything else. And then Joe Burrow. He is definitely a riskier option, I would say, than Ryan Tannehill, but the ceiling probably higher because of the expected volume, and the weapons are better with Higgins, with Boyd, with AJ Green, and then potentially Giovanni Bernard yet again. We think, again, the passing yards will make up for some shortcomings at the end of the day, and I see Burrow as a mid to high-end quarterback 2. Moving on, we got the Jets at the Chiefs. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is a must start versus the Jets. I think the Chiefs are absolutely going to murder the Jets. And again, the only thing that could work against Patrick Mahomes would be game script. And what I mean by that is, again, the running backs just taking over this game. And obviously, when it comes to the Jets, you're going to sit Sam Darnold. I don't like the chances for the Jets here at all. Yes, they kind of hung in there versus the Bills last week, but even then, Sam Darnold wasn't all that great. I don't think that's even going to be close to the case versus the Chiefs, so I want nothing to do with Darnold. Moving on, we got the Colts at the Lions. I'm sitting both of these quarterbacks. The wide receivers for the Colts, plain and simple, have not been getting it done. And again, I think this will be a game where we see a focus on the rushing attack. Phillip Rivers, way too inconsistent, way too turnover prone, even versus this Lions defense. No, thank you. And then Matthew Stafford, just a tough matchup here versus this stingy Colts defense. I could see this game being lower scoring than some might anticipate. So for that reason, even with someone like a Kenny Golladay, I would rather pass on Matthew Stafford. These last couple of weeks hasn't been anything all that great for Stafford. And again, a tough matchup versus the Colts. So I'm passing both of these quarterbacks. Next, we've got the Steelers at the Ravens, and I'll start Ben Roethlisberger and Lamar Jackson. And as crazy as it might sound, I actually have more faith in Ben Roethlisberger in this matchup, because I think the Ravens' defense isn't quite as good as that of the Steelers. Now, that's not to say that the Ravens are a bad defense. They've been great. They've been exceptional. But the Steelers' defense is on another level. And I think Lamar Jackson is more one-dimensional than Ben Roethlisberger. You take away his rushing ability, and Lamar Jackson arguably becomes a liability. So just a couple things to throw out there. I think both these guys are quarterback 2s on the week. Yes, that might sound sacrilegious when talking about Lamar Jackson, but again, I think the Steelers defense will do a good job of containing him. So for that reason, I think he's probably a high-end quarterback 2, just to throw that out there. Before continuing, I want to tell you guys a little bit about a new partner of ours in Thrive Fantasy, which is an absolutely awesome daily fantasy sports app that specializes in player props. And the great thing about Thrive Fantasy is that it's super simple to use, as they've eliminated the need to do countless hours of research, because they only ask you about the top tier athletes in a respective sport. Literally, all you have to do is find a contest and join it. From there, just select the props you like and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. And it's not just the NFL. There's NBA, MLB, PGA. Literally, you think it, Thrive Fantasy has it. In fact, Thrive has awarded over $1.5 million in prizes since launching in 2018 and has $50,000 guaranteed in prizes weekly. So sign up today, and when you use promo code ALLDAY on sign up, you receive an instant match bonus up to $50. You can download Thrive Fantasy on the App Store, Play Store, or by visiting their website, thrivefantasy.com. So stop waiting, sign up today, use promo code ALLDAY, and start propping up today. Next, Rams at Dolphins. I'll start Jared Goff. And this is a much easier matchup for the Rams compared to last week versus the Bears. I think the entire offense has a, better performance. Not that they had a bad one last week versus the Bears, but again, the Dolphins defense is on one level, and then the Bears defense is on a whole nother one. So for that reason, I like Jared Goff here as a mid-level quarterback too. And then, yes, Tua, this is his first start of the year, and some people are going to be super excited to start him, but I just don't have enough confidence to start him for the first time ever versus a good defense, with Aaron Donald probably going after him 24/7, with us not knowing what the chemistry is between him and his wide receivers. So again, I'd rather be a little bit more cautious to just see what Tua has prior to starting him and, give us a little bit of a sample size going forward. Then Patriots at the Bills. Only quarterback that I'm going to start here, sounds crazy, is Josh Allen. Yes, Allen has struggled these last couple of weeks, and especially versus the Jets, that's very concerning last week. But there were some opportunities that didn't go his way. Could have had some touchdowns, but obviously it didn't work out, whether it was holding, whether it was, someone tripping, something like that. But I think this higher ceiling here is for Josh Allen. He's got more weapons for sure. Both these defenses, good defenses. So Cam Newton, I think, is facing a taller task here. And when you look at his offensive pieces compared to that of Josh Allen and the way Newton has played and his passing struggles, I'm not sure whether it's, some lingering effects of COVID or something like that, or whether it's just Cam Newton kind of crashing back down to earth and the lack of weapons offensively catching up to him in New England. All those things are possible, but either way, the way Newton has looked right now, I just don't have enough confidence in him. Yes, his rushing ability usually has been enough to start him due to it raising his floor, but I need to see him get it back going before I insert him in my starting lineup. Next up, Raiders at Browns. I'll start both these quarterbacks. I think they've got good matchups. Derek Carr versus this Browns team. I think this will be a high-scoring affair. If Nelson Aguilar continues to be dependent, that's obviously a good thing. I think Darren Waller will continue to do his thing. I think Josh Jacobs will have a better performance compared to last week versus the Bucs. And then for Baker Mayfield, yes, Odell Beckham being lost for the year is a big blow, but you've still got plenty of other weapons this Raiders defense can be had. I think Jarvis Landry will have a good performance, so will the tight ends, and so will Kareem Hunt. All those guys will help Baker Mayfield, and I think both these guys are probably mid to high-end quarterback twos on the week. Next up, Chargers at the Broncos. I'll start Justin Herbert. I like his offensive weapons more so. Now, I don't anticipate the same type of performance that we saw last week where he was absolutely amazing. 40 plus points depending on the type of scoring format that you have. This Broncos defense is better, so keep that in mind, and we'll see. Maybe weather could play into this as well. So Herbert, probably a mid to high-end quarterback 2 on the week. And then I am sitting Drew Lock. This Chargers defense, it's been up and down, yes. But if Tim Patrick doesn't play here, I do think that limits the upside of this Broncos offense. Still, they kind of struggle to score offensively and to convert all of their opportunities into touchdowns. So I'm fading Drew Lock here. Afterwards, Saints at the Bears, sitting both these quarterbacks. That's relatively easy for me. I hate the matchup for Drew Brees versus this Bears defense. Regardless of how the Bears play as a team, their defense continues to get it done. And if Michael Thomas doesn't play, if Emmanuel Sanders doesn't play, forget about it. And then for the Bears, it's an even easier decision, whether it's Trubisky, whether it's Foles. This offense is absolutely awful. No matter the quarterback, way too inconsistent, too little, too late type of situation. So I am sitting Nick Foles, no question about it. Then 49ers at the Seahawks. I actually like both these quarterbacks. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a sneaky start this week that could potentially have a high-end quarterback 2 or maybe even low-end quarterback 1 type of performance versus the Seahawks. The 49ers a little bit banged up at the running back position, and I think if they want to keep pace with the Seahawks, they will have to air it out. Garoppolo looking healthy, and even with Deebo Samuel out, I still think George Kittle and Ayuk are enough to get it done versus the Seahawks secondary. It might not result in a win for the 49ers, but I think Garoppolo has a decent performance in him. And then obviously Russell Wilson is a must start every single week. You love his ceiling, a top 5 quarterback play in week 8. Then Cowboys at the Eagles. I'm starting Carson Wentz, but that is it. Pretty much every single week now, it becomes a situation where whoever is going up versus this Cowboys defense, you start him. even if the Eagles don't get Alshon Jeffrey back, I still like Carson Wentz. I think he's as high as a low-end quarterback one versus the Cowboys. And then for Dallas at quarterback, I'm sitting whether it's Andy Dalton or Ben DiNucci. I don't like either one of those choices. Dalton just hasn't been getting it done. DiNucci just don't have enough on him. Don't have, enough confidence to start him versus a decent Philadelphia defense, especially if they bottle up Ezekiel Elliott. So I am fading the quarterbacks for Dallas. And finally, Bucks at Giants. I'll start Tom Brady. I like the matchup versus the Giants. Even with Chris Godwin out, there's enough weapons here to step up, whether it's Gronk, whether it's Evans, whether it's Miller, whether it's one of those running backs. I like Brady as a high-end quarterback 2 on the week, and then I'm sitting Daniel Jones. This is a good Bucks defense. I think they're going to stop the rushing attack, which has been their MO, which means Daniel Jones will have to do it with his arm. And yes, there might be a lot of volume, but I don't like the chances here. Even with someone like a Sterling Shepard back, I think this is going to be a long day for the Giants, so I am fading them here. So with that, we wrap up our Week 8 quarterback starts and sits. And as always, let us hear it in the comment section. Did you agree, disagree, along with your own personal start and sit questions? We will do our best to answer them. And in the meantime, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Also, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us as the week progresses. And also check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. Sign up for our free newsletter to get access to exclusive content. All those details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.